Hold on a second. We just got an inside look at Ford's playbook, and it's the massive update we've all been waiting for. But there is a serious catch. Ford is finally pulling back the curtain on their universal EV platform. This is the DNA for every truck, SUV, and car they plan to build for the next 10 years. On the surface, it looks like a revolution, but if you look closer, it looks a little too familiar. While the rest of the car world is cheering Ford for finally starting with a clean slate to take on China, I'm seeing something different. It looks like Ford backed a semi-truck up to the Tesla recycling bin and took every idea they could find. They've spent the last few years poaching top-tier Tesla engineers and tech executives to build a product that screams Silicon Valley. But here is the million-dollar question. In their rush to be high-tech, did they forget what actual truck owners need? I'm Nick, and today on Nick's Car Review, we're exposing the truth. Did Ford just build a game changer? Or did they just design a truck-shaped car that's gonna get left in the dust? Let's dive in. For the last few years, critics have called the F-150 Lightning a stopgap or even a failed experiment. Why? Because it was essentially an old gas truck with a battery pack shoved into the frame. It was heavy, it was expensive, and it wasn't efficient. Ford heard the noise. Their new platform is a total 180-degree turn. It's designed from the ground up to be lighter, cheaper to make, and way more high-tech. But when you look at the names on the office doors, the exposed truth comes out. Ford didn't just hire a few consultants. They hired the architects of the modern EV. We are talking about Alan Clark, a 12-year Tesla veteran, and Doug Field, a former top tech lead for both Tesla and Apple. They are the ones running this skunkworks team in California. When you put Silicon Valley tech bros in charge of a legendary American truck brand, you get a tech bro product. Almost every breakthrough Ford announced this week feels like it was pulled straight from the Tesla manual. We're talking about unicastings, massive single-piece metal parts that replace hundreds of tiny components. Ford says these are 27% lighter than what you'd find on a Model Y. They are also moving to a 48-volt zonal architecture. This is a fancy way of saying they are ripping out miles of heavy copper wiring and replacing it with a streamlined computer system. Then there's the structural battery pack, where the battery isn't just sitting in the car, it is the floor of the car. It's a genius way to cut costs and drop weight. On paper, it's a manufacturing masterpiece. But the real question remains, is this the right way to build a tool that people rely on for work? Ford is shouting from the rooftops about their Model T moment. They are promising a $30,000 EV truck that can actually make the company a profit. They've obsessed over every tiny detail to make this the most aerodynamic truck ever built. They are talking about a 15% jump in aero efficiency and cutting parasitic friction in the bearings and tires. But here is the exposed reality. All those extra miles they found through clever engineering, they aren't being used to give you a 500-mile range. Instead, Ford is using that efficiency to justify making the battery pack smaller. This is the core of their strategy. By making the truck lighter and more aerodynamic, they can use a tiny battery to hit a decent range number on paper. This allows them to save thousands of dollars on expensive minerals like lithium and cobalt, but it leaves the customer with a very thin margin for error. I'm predicting this platform will struggle to even hit 300 miles of range in the real world. For a truck owner in North America, that is a scary number. Why? Because trucks aren't just for commuting. We use them to haul gear, pull trailers, and drive through snow. Ford is making a massive bet that a low price tag matters more than total distance. They are betting that you will be okay with a smaller tank because the engine is more efficient. But they might be underestimating just how much we hate range anxiety, especially when that 300-mile estimate starts to plummet the moment you put a toolbox in the bed. Here is where things get really controversial. If you ask any truck guy or gal in North America what they need before they'll even consider ditching their gas pickup, they'll give you a very specific list. It's not about zonal architecture or software-defined features. They want a fair price, massive range, and rock-solid performance in freezing weather. They need heavy-duty towing and payload capacity. They want different bed length options, not just a one-size-fits-all tub. They want a rugged, body-on-frame construction that a local shop can actually repair if it gets banged up on a job site. They're looking for high torque, durability, and maybe even a front bench seat for the dog. Now, compare that to what Ford actually spent their time talking about in their big reveal. They focus on bounties, a system where engineers get rewarded for shaving off a single millimeter of roof height to save $1.30 in battery costs. They bragged about unicasting technology that cuts the number of parts in the chassis from 147 down to just 2. They talked about how they removed 4,000 feet of wiring to make the factory robots happy. Notice the problem? Not a single item on the actual truck owner's priority list was a headline in Ford's presentation. Ford is using the same "the best part is no part" philosophy that Tesla uses. That is great for corporate profit margins and making the stock market happy, but it might be a total disaster for someone who actually needs to use their truck for work. We are seeing a group of engineers steeped in Silicon Valley doctrine, completely missing the boat on what makes a truck in the real world. A truck is a tool, not a smartphone on wheels. When you prioritize factory efficiency over utility, you risk building a vehicle that's easy to make but hard to use. When you look at the graphics Ford released, something exposed a major red flag for me: the bed size. From what we can see, it looks like a 4-foot bed. That is tiny. It's looking even smaller than the Maverick. When you realize that every vehicle on this universal EV platform, from the mini SUV to the minivan, will use the same base, you have to wonder what's being compromised to save that 27% in weight. My prediction? Ford isn't building a new Maverick EV. Based on patent papers from August 2025, I'm betting this will be called the Ranchero EV. They don't want to butcher the high sales of the gas-powered Maverick, so they are reviving an old name for this new car truck. If you remember the original Ranchero from the 50s and 60s, it wasn't a heavy-duty workhorse. It was a car with a bed. Expect the Ranchero to have lackluster towing numbers and a payload that's mediocre at best. It will likely have a range that sits below Tesla, Hyundai, and Kia, lucky to even hit that 300-mile mark. Because it uses LFP batteries to keep the price down, you're also going to see slower charging speeds and massive range losses in the winter. Essentially, you're looking at a tech-loaded, highly efficient car with a plastic tub bed that looks like a truck but doesn't have the soul or the specs of one. This is the exact same mistake Tesla made with the Cybertruck, ignoring the traditional wish list of North American truck folk. While the tech bros think they can just push this down our throats and tell us to adapt or else, the market might have a different idea. Despite the excitement surrounding Ford's profit margins, there is a shocking reality we have to face. By relying so heavily on engineers steeped in Silicon Valley doctrine, Ford might be repeating the exact same exposed mistake that crippled Cybertruck sales. These tech-focused teams are obsessed with weight reduction and factory efficiency, but they seem to be missing the boat on what makes a truck functional for the North American market. It's a dumb and misdirected approach to think you can just push a product down the throat of truck folk and tell them to adapt or else. We've seen this movie before. While the Ranchero might be a fun, peppy, and affordable EV platform, it isn't going to be a real truck. This discounting of traditional utility is exactly why Ford could get slaughtered once the trade walls finally come down and Asian competitors enter the United States market in full force. When you look at the design philosophy, everything is about the top hat. That's industry speak for the body they slap on top of the battery skateboard. By making the skateboard universal, they are forced to make compromises. You can't have a platform that works perfectly for a tiny city van and a rugged off-road truck at the same time. Either the van is overbuilt or the truck is underbuilt. Based on the focus on being lightweight and efficient, I'm betting the truck is the one getting the short end of the stick. This Silicon Valley blind spot means Ford is building a vehicle for people who want to look like they have a truck, rather than people who actually need to use one. Ford seems to think that to make a $30,000 EV, you have to sacrifice capability. They are gambling that you'll trade towing power for a sleek dashboard and a low monthly payment. But while Ford is busy copying the Tesla playbook, other companies are actually listening to what truck owners want. Asia is already proving that a compact EV doesn't have to be a lifestyle toy. In fact, the competition is designing tools, not just gadgets. Take a look at the Telo MT1. This thing is about the size of a Mini Cooper, yet it is built like a tank. It's compact as luggage, but it checks off almost every box on a real truck owner's wish list. We're talking about a 60-inch bed that can actually expand to fit a full sheet of plywood by folding down the midgate. It has a predicted payload of 1,600 pounds and a towing capacity of 6,600 pounds. That is more utility than many full-size trucks offered just a decade ago. Telo is proving that you can have a tiny footprint without having a tiny work ethic. Then you have the Kia PV5, which is already confirmed to be headed to North America as a 2027 model. Unlike Ford's top hat approach, where they just slap different bodies on one universal frame, Kia is doing something much smarter. The PV5 is a modular vehicle. It features an interchangeable upper body system that can turn a cargo van into a truck with a drop-down 8-foot bed option. It is the epitome of what truck folk actually want, a platform that is ingeniously flexible and built for actual labor. If you are nostalgic for the days of truly capable small trucks, like the old Chevy S10s, the original Ford Rangers, the Ranchero might leave you feeling cold. For those owners, the move might be to ignore the tech bro hype and wait for brands like Telo, or for Kia and Hyundai to fully navigate the tariff swamp. These rivals aren't just trying to out Tesla, they are trying to out truck Ford. So, is emulating Tesla the right move for the Blue Oval? On one hand, Ford is finally building a platform that is highly efficient, tech-loaded, and most importantly, affordable. If you want a cool little car truck that is easy to park and fun to drive, you might have found your match. At $30,000, it's gonna be hard for many people to say no. But is this the truck of the future? Personally, I think it's a massive gamble. Ford is banking on the idea that price matters more than anything else in the EV segment right now. But by ignoring the holy grail of truck features like massive cold weather range, body-on-frame durability, and real bed options, they are leaving the door wide open. They are inviting competitors who actually listen to what truck folk want to come in and steal their lunch. I want to hear your take on this. Is going all in on tech bro efficiency the right way to save the American truck? Or are we losing the soul of the pickup in the process? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one of them. I'm Nick. This is Nick's Car Review, and I'll see you in the next one.